Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning. Good morning. How are you guys? Good morning. It's your girl, Shonna Etienne, and I am back this Monday morning with the virtual book club. I am a little behind schedule, so I do apologize wholeheartedly. And I am here just so you can know my little one is getting ready for the bus, and my older children are getting ready to leave to go to my daughter's business. So if you hear any noise in the background, I'm a mom. There's nothing I can do about that. But I just wanted to forewarn you guys this morning. So I'm glad you guys are coming on. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hey, babe, there go my husband. Good morning. Good morning, Nawal. We are starting a new book today. Good morning, Trinity. And I'm so super excited about this book because this is my first time reading it as well. Good morning, Charles. How are you, beautiful people? So I just wanted to take this opportunity to share the video. If you have not done so, let's share the video. We're going to go over Dr. Boyce Watkins' book. It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, a new paradigm for Black America. And it's an ebook. So you guys can always print out his ebook. I did forget to put the link to print out his book, but we are going over Dr. Boyce Watkins' book today. And I started reading it this morning just so I can be abreast for the book club. And I know there's some things that's going to strike people in a different way. I'm going to say that. But I want you guys just to be bold enough to open up your ears just to hear it, because we read a lot of books on here. We read a lot of different people's books, and some books are feel-good books, and some books are going to make you think. And this is one of the books that's going to raise our level of consciousness. So even though this is my first time reading this book, so I may not be as deep on my commentary as I normally am, because I was reading books to you guys that I keep in my library that I have read myself in life. So this is my first time reading this book, and I do find some things about this book awesome. I'm just going to put it that way. I do share a lot of Dr. Boyce Watkins' thoughts. I guess I'm a part of his network. I share a lot of his thoughts. And I also know that he has been controversial for some people. Not for me, but for some other people, he has been controversial. So I just say that to say, just open up your ears so we can hear, because we're reading a book of one of my favorite people. He's one of my favorite people because I love his tenacity and his boldness and his fearlessness. And I think that we all can learn a little something from Dr. Boyce Watkins. So this is the book we're going over today. Peace and blessings, Justin. Good morning, O'Neill. Let's get going, everyone. I'm just going to share this video and we are going to get going. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And if I don't get to you to right in the middle of this video with the questions, you know I try to answer all questions on my wall. So just go ahead and put it up there. And if you have not downloaded the book, make sure you download the book. And I'm going now. Here we go. So he starts off by saying, I do not consider myself to be an extraordinary man. I am not anybody's hero. I sometimes even wonder if I'm really that smart. But one of the things that I can tell you right now is that I am determined. I am absolutely, unconditionally determined to ensure that the future of my community is better than the past. I believe that my role as a Black intellectual is to make the world a better place than it was on the day I first arrived on this planet. Sometimes battles like this can be lonely, since it seems that there are too many in our community who don't even care or don't feel empowered enough to be able to get anything done. But I'm not talking to those people right now. I'm talking to those who care about making their community strong, vibrant, and capable as we push forward into the 21st century. To be honest, I believe that too many scholars feel that our role should be minimum, or that our job is to do what's best for ourselves and not think about anybody else. I do not agree with this assessment. I founded websites like financialjuneteenth.com because I was tired of being a slave. I was tired of feeling like someone else always controls my destiny. I would think about the runaway slaves on a plantation 300 years ago and how many of them escaped because they were living lives they didn't want to live. Let me stop right there. For those of you guys who are just joining on, We are reading Dr. Boyce Watkins' book. It's a free ebook that you can get on download. It is called It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, a new paradigm for Black America. So basically, Dr. Boyce Watkins is talking about what so many of us who want to be financially free, who wants to have the freedom of having our own jobs, our own businesses, making our own decisions. What he is saying when he uses the word slave, he's saying as long as you are not free to do whatever you want to do, you have to punch your clock. Your livelihood is determined on somebody else giving you a paycheck. As long as that's the case, you're not free. But I'm going to take it a step further, because I'm a business owner and I have people who are employed by me and they work for me, and I don't look at them as slaves. I think that we're all joining together to get something greater in this world. And I also mentor those who work with me, and I teach them how to start their own business and how to go out on their own, because if I can train someone else up to do exactly what I do, I know that our community will be better as a whole. And I'm going to say this, in all my years of employing people, there are people who just don't want to work for themselves, and I don't force them. But the fact that they are working with me on something that they share a vision with is beautiful enough. So when he's talking about being a slave to the corporate plantation, he's not necessarily saying working for your own amongst your own. That's not what he's talking about. What he is saying is when you're making other communities rich, when you are working for someone else, whether it's an Asian, whether it's a white man, whether it's an Indian, it doesn't matter. When you're working for someone else and the money is going to build up their community and their people, that's when he's saying that you're a slave. That's what he's saying. If you notice, a lot of communities, especially like Asian communities, they employ their own. And I don't think they look at their people as slaves, because what I notice about Asian communities, and I have some Asian associates, I wouldn't call them friends, but I do have Asian associates. And what I notice about them, a lot of them tell me that they'll work for each other so that they get enough to build, and then they open their own and they bring somebody else in to replace them at that spot. That's how you build a community. So I don't want people to get so caught up on the word slave, because sometimes when words are used, we get into our emotions. I'm asking you guys, for the sake of this book, to put your emotions aside and just listen to what he's saying. When he's saying you don't want to be a slave, he's not talking about even working for black folk. That's what he's talking about. He's saying, like, if you're working at a corporation and the money is not used to build your community, the money is actually used to build someone else's community and give somebody else's riches. That's what Dr. Boyce Watkins is calling enslaved. So let's move on. And you guys got to read the book, because I'm not reading paragraph for paragraph. So you guys got to download the book so you can stay up with me. There was always that person on a plantation who said, maybe we're supposed to live better than this. In fact, maybe we should fight against the system that is designed to oppress us. The same thing is true for many of us on our jobs when we decide to take a stand against blatant oppression. Most people are too afraid or too financially insecure to take a stand with you. Instead, they'd rather stand behind you or only stand with you in private. This fear is natural. Oppression has a huge psychological impact on those who are affected. Let us not pretend that if we had lived during slavery, all of us would want to be the runaway slave, because that's just a bold-faced lie. The fact is that the runaway slaves, the individuals who wanted freedom and were willing to fight for it and perhaps even die for it, were typically in the minority. Also, many of those individuals are not successful in their goals of leaving their plantation. So what he's saying is, listen, let's not pretend that if we were back in the days of slavery, everybody would be fighting to get free. We don't see that now, and there are a lot of people who are enslaved, and we didn't see that then, because it came with a price. And for many of us who speak out against oppression, many of us who speak about things that make other people uncomfortable, we're often by ourselves. I don't have many friends that think like me, and that's okay. I don't have many of the people that I rock with or that I used to rock with, and they're not beside me right now. And that's okay, because I understand that they work for somebody else. And I understand that they cannot be as bold as I can be, because it might cost them their job. I understand that because nowadays you have employers that scouting the internet. They're finding out what you're talking about. They're looking you up because everything you put on the internet is for your exposure. Everyone can see it. So I understand that people are afraid to engage with people like me. And I understand that people are afraid to engage with people like Dr. Boyce Watkins because it's not popular. But somebody has got to do this job. Somebody has got to do it. So if you're one of those people that's taking a stand for your community and you're speaking out against racism or oppression or exploitation, whatever the case is, do understand that you're probably going to stand alone. And that's pretty much what Dr. Boyce Watkins is talking about. Most of us who dare defy and speak up against white supremacy are also confronted with the same black people, those who claim they want to help us by telling us to tone it down or not to be so radical, even when our people are being killed by the impact of racial oppression. Much of this attitude is rooted in the experience on the plantation, where the punishment for deviation was tremendous, and no one would dare stand up against the master. But understand this, the runaway slave, even though he probably failed in his goal of obtaining freedom, was the first visionary on the plantation. He planted a seed of inspiration and freedom that led to the next generation believing that there was a more desirable possibility, a better reality meant for Black people and their children. He was the one who would inspire the next slave to try to escape from the plantation against all odds and maybe try a different route, pick a different strategy, or figure out a different way to get the freedom that was denied by his ancestors. So if you are somebody who is out there fighting to uplift your people and to get them out of this rut that we are right now, I posted the other day that Black people have become the instruments to their own depression. And some people understood what I was talking about. And many people who are not used to that kind of language, that vernacular, didn't understand what I'm talking about. So let me make this very clear. If we don't stand against oppression, if we don't stand against racism, we become the instruments, the very tool that is designed to keep us oppressed. So when we became the tool, you got to think about it. Things were stripped out of our communities. Money was stripped out of our communities. A good educational system was stripped out of our communities. Housing, livable housing was stripped out of communities, but was replaced by guns, replaced by poverty, replaced by drugs, replaced by all these negative things designed to bring us down. So when we become instruments, meaning we become the very tools of the oppressor to keep us oppressed, meaning we are doing it ourselves because we're not fighting up against the system. Not enough of us. I'm not going to say all of us aren't, but we need more people to fight against this system. And what Dr. Boyce Watkins is saying, when you decide to fight against this system, you stand the chance of being ostracized. That means singled out. You stand the chance of losing your job, losing friends, losing family. You stand the chance of losing business. You stand the chance of being destroyed, because anybody who speaks out against this well-oiled machine runs the chance of losing a lot. So you're not going to get people that want to stand with you because they understand that the cost of standing up against racism, the cost of standing up against oppression is costly. It's tremendous, right? So that's pretty much what he was saying. So I see people are talking. I see people are talking. Yes, it takes many hands for the light work. Yes, it does. The first runaway slave opened the door for future slaves to dream bigger, try harder, and even figure out solutions to previously unsolvable problems. He made the impossible possible, and realities were born that were previously inconceivable. He was the originator of all that we would ever become in America, the Alpha which brought our Omega into existence. In fact, I dare to say that you can't have the first Black president without the first runaway slave. So President Obama, thank you to the first person who ran away and who fought out against oppression, because it made it possible for President Obama to sit in his chair. It made it possible for many of us to hold positions that we have. It made it possible for many of us to rise to the level of fame that we are at, because somebody was brave enough to come up with a strategy to run away. So when you see people like Dr. Boyce Watkins, before you knock him down, I suggest to listen to him. I suggest to see the points of views that he makes that you agree with, not the points that you disagree with. We're not supposed to focus on the things that we don't like. We're not supposed to focus on the things that we don't agree with. Let's focus on the things that we do agree with so that we can come up together and unite together for a greater strategy. But what tends to happen is people get so uncomfortable with what is being said and they get so fearful that they refuse to stand with somebody that they view as radical. Instead, they tell the person to tone it down. But runaway slaves had to be bold enough to close their ears to that. They had to be brave enough to say, if you're not standing with me, then you're against me. And there's a consequence for that as well. So what he's talking about is just knowing that in order for us to reach the level of success that some of us have reached, it took a runaway slave to be able to do that. So we have to pay homage to wherever everything started at. When I write these words, I am talking about my fellow runaway slaves, not those who are afraid of the master. I'm talking to other Black people who are looking around in their community and are sick and tired of some things they're seeing. We are sick and tired of Black people being treated as second-class citizens. We are sick and tired of our children being left uneducated. We are sick and tired of seeing our babies shot dead in the street. We are sick and tired of Black people not advancing. We are sick and tired of the world believing that we are somehow inferior to other people, when the fact is that we are capable of being the greatest people on the planet. We are sick and tired of the toxic music. Oh my God, this right here. We are sick and tired of the toxic music being thrust into our children by major radio stations, making them think that they are meant to be nothing but hoochies, ballers, rappers, thugs, killers, and other things that are going to put them in an early grave. We are sick of being Black people going to prison. We are sick and tired of the other people controlling our destiny. We are action oriented and looking for a way out of the mess we see all around us. Our destiny should belong to us and nobody else. But the media controls our minds as if we have a puppet master's hands up our rear end. When I write these words, I am talking to people who can go there with me, who can see a vision that is greater and more meaningful than the here and now. So Dr. Boyce Watkins isn't talking to everybody. And when I talk, I'm not speaking to everybody because I understand that everyone doesn't stand with us, and that's okay. Everyone doesn't see things the way we see things, and that's okay. Who we are talking to are those who do share our vision, those who are not afraid to escape their current situation, those of us that are not dependent on the powers that oppress us to feed us and to clothe us and to house us. We're not speaking to those people. We are speaking to the people that says, okay, this is going to cost me something, but I'm willing to do it. To be honest, this message is not for the mass or for the masses. I'm talking to the true Black elite. I'm not talking about the intellectual elite. I'm not talking about the economical elite. I am talking about the spiritual elite. The spiritual elite consists of individuals who are deeply committed to seeing our community get to a place we've never been before. I'm referring to those who cannot commit themselves to proactively constructing a vision. I'm referring to those who can commit themselves to proactively constructing a vision of something that doesn't exist today. This is a multi-generational vision, one that is meant for our grandchildren's grandchildren. So you get the point of who he's speaking to. He's not speaking to the faint of heart. He's not speaking to those who are afraid of publicly speaking up against the system of racism and oppression. He's not speaking to those people. He's not speaking to those people who want to root you on in private, but in public they act like they don't know you. He's not speaking to those people who are afraid to press the share button because they don't want people to know that they think like them, but they watch and they are secretly rooting you on saying, yes, 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 but afraid of disclosing their true thoughts to others. He's not speaking to those people. So if you are one of those people, this message isn't for you. I'm just so sorry to tell you that. It's just not for you. This message is for those who are not afraid to stand against the system. The fact is that many of us just have it wrong. We value the wrong things. We teach our children in the wrong way. We respond to racism in ways that are clearly counterproductive. Let me say that again. We respond to racism in ways that are clearly counterproductive. Many of us are trained to start digging our graves from the day we leave our mother's womb, and this cannot continue. Of course, we know that many of our families have fallen apart. Now, this is going to be kind of sensitive to some people. So I just want to forewarn y'all. This part right here is going to be sensitive to some people. Of course, we know that many of our families have fallen apart. Black Americans were hit especially hard during the war on drugs and mass incarceration. Now, some people feel fathers are no longer mandatory. Ain't this the truth? Some people feel that fathers are no longer mandatory. But I'm going to add something else to this. Some fathers and some mothers feel that children are not their priorities. Hello? Because yes, some people feel that fathers are no longer mandatory, but there's also the reverse in that too, that some parents feel that they don't have to do their job of parenting. They have dropped their children off with other people. They have allowed their children to go into the system and they've given up the fight to get them back. They have negated the fact that you made a child with somebody, but yet you refuse to take care of them. That's the other part of this that I am added on. He didn't write this, but this is the Shonna spin. So let's move on. As a result, children are raised with the kind of family structure that provides them with the self-esteem to form productive relationships into adulthood. In other countries, the family is the center of the wealth-building exercise. So by improperly constructing our families, we are creating numerous problems in almost every other relevant area or arena. Community is the nexus of wealth. Community is the nexus of wealth, education, and family. If you are financially destitute, uneducated, and have poorly structured families, then it is extremely difficult to form a strong and vibrant community. The mother must be there for the son. Now, he's not saying this is an absolute. What he's giving is examples of what we see right now. The mothers must be there for the sons. The father must be there for the wife. The daughter must be able to depend on her uncle. The lost child must be able to depend on a neighbor for help, support, or protection in case his parents are not around. So that's what a community is. We all must depend on each other. That's what a community is. But what we are seeing right now, give me a second, give me a kiss. Have fun. What we are seeing right now is a community that is divided. We are only caring for our own. We are only worrying about ourselves. We're not worrying about our neighbors' children anymore, like how we used to when I grew up. We're not worrying about our nieces, our nephews, our cousins. Many families have allowed their own families to go into foster care. They have allowed their own families to be adopted. And the mindset is, it's not my problem. He or she should have taken care of their child. It is our problem. It is all of our problems. We must build our community and stop seeing everybody as an individual. We have to learn to see one another as a collective so that we can pull together collectively and make sure that we manage and take care of our own. I understand that my thoughts are big. I understand that we don't see that as a possibility, but let us remind each other that this was the case years ago. This was the case when I was growing up. Now we're only talking about, I got almost 4 decades on me. So we're only talking about 40 years ago. Just imagine those who are 60, 70 years old. This was the case that we took care of our own communities. But we have gotten brainwashed. We have gotten so brainwashed that we believe that it's every man for himself. But when you look around and you look at other ethnicities and other cultures, they take care of each other. They have each other's back. Now, doesn't mean that they don't have division in the community? Absolutely not. Everybody has division in a community. But what it means is they stand together to take care of their own. And that's what he's saying. We must stand together to take care of our own. Much of this has been lost, but not entirely. The future can be reclaimed, but it is going to have to start with us loving ourselves enough to stop listening to other people. We can't keep begging, seeking approval, or getting into meaningless spats with those who never want to see Black people prosper. As I said, it is going to require a new paradigm of thought. So we're going to stop right there for today. That's where we're stopping today. So basically, there was one thing I want to say that really struck to me. A lot of things resonated with me, but there was one thing in this opening chapter that really resonated with me, is when he said, we're going about fighting racism all wrong. We know that racism exists, but we're going about it, fighting it all wrong. See, one thing with me, I'm not going to engage with arguments with people who want to argue about racism. I'm not going to educate white folks on how to treat Black folks. I'm not going to educate Asians on how to respect Black people. I'm not going to spend my time doing that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I much rather spend my energy educating my own. I must rather spend my energy teaching my own how to build, how to come together. I don't have all the answers, but I know people like me, Dr. Boyce Watkins. I know some of you guys on here, especially Justin, Marvin Muhammad. I know some of you guys on here do the same thing that I do. Just imagine how powerful we would be if we come back together. Just imagine how powerful we'd be if we take it back to where it was in the 60s and the 70s when we held meetings every week. Even if we started holding meetings monthly, when we're getting on the same plan and we're moving forward. I have so many different associates from so many different backgrounds. It's not funny. I have a Polish associate. And you know what he told me? He came to this country 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even 8 years ago. I cannot fully remember. But it was less than 10 years ago. And he did not speak a lick of English. And he said what he did was he watched American TV every day and he learned English that way. And I said, well, who's your family? Did you come here with your family? He is the only person here. And I said, how did you rise to this level? How did you get to be this successful? You're the only person here. And you know what he told me? And he always wants to have play dates with my kids and always like bringing our kids together. He always wants to do things like that, right? He really is here by himself. And you know what he told me? He said, because we, the Polish people in my community where I live at, not community as Black people, but my community where I live at. See, I want you guys to understand that we use this term interchangeably. We have a community like where you reside at, and then we have community as us as a collective. So I'm speaking geographically. I'm talking about where I reside. He said, well, down in blah, blah, blah town, I'm not going to say the town just in case he's watching. I don't want him to know that I'm disclosing his information. He said, down in blah, blah, blah town, we have a Polish organization, and it's an association, and they meet at the same restaurant. Every month they meet at the same restaurant. And you know what they talk about at their meetings? They paint each other up with each other for dating purposes, for marriage. So that's how he met his wife. So they hook each other up to keep it within their community. They also talk about who's a lawyer in their community, who's the doctor in their community, who's the accountant in their community, who's a mentor in their community, who has this business, who has that business. They exchange it there. And they also talk about what areas that they can start buying to build. How about that? They meet every freaking month and they talk about building a family, meaning we all marry within, right? Building a family. We all support each other's businesses. Who's the doctor, who's the lawyer, who's the teacher, who's the blah, blah, blah. We all support each other's businesses. And we collectively pull our money together and we buy one house at a time in a community to take it over. Where's our meeting? And I'm not talking about the Black Caucus, whatever. I'm not talking about that crap. Where's our meeting? Where's our meeting? And we're going to get into this a little bit later in Dr. Boyce Watkins' book, because I love the fact that he touched on Minister Farrakhan, because he's the closest thing that I know that have built a community, a nation. Forget about a community. He's the only one that I know who have built a nation within a nation. They can buy their own food from each other. They teach each other. They have their own schools. They collectively pull together with their businesses. Oh my gosh. They have their own fishing. They buy their own chicken. They build their own farm. Because they meet. Because they meet and they listen to Minister Farrakhan, and everybody follows out and they put together the vision and they make it come to life. Because they meet. But so many of us are so ignorant. We laugh at their bow ties, right? We say that they're crazy folk. We talk about, I don't know what they're talking about. Let me tell you something. I learned from so many different people. I don't let a religious dogma stop me from being able to tune in to what somebody else is saying, especially when they are doing it. Especially when they have proven that what they're saying is working. But we overlook those things. We want to laugh at the bean pie. We want to laugh at the newspapers that they sell. We want to laugh at these things. Keep laughing because they built a nation. Keep on laughing. But as a Black church collectively, what are we doing? What are we doing? We meet every Sunday and we leave on Monday the same way. Because when they meet, they talk about family. They talk about supporting one another. They talk about building businesses. They don't keep saying the same scriptures over and over again. They talk about it and they apply it to scripture. Here's what the scripture says. This is what we're doing. I think we need to get ourselves back to a point where we are meeting, when we are collectively meeting and we have the same game plan. That's what we need to do, because I know so many organizations do it. I know Asian organizations do. I live in an Asian community. I see how they move. 10 years ago when I moved there, this community wasn't what it is right now. They came in and boom, took it over in a blink of an eye. Everything is Asian. You can't brush your teeth without it being Asian. Because they meet and they collectively pull together, and do not think that they don't have division amongst them. They do. But just like one of my Asian friends, he's Chinese, what he said to me was, you guys will never see our division. He said, look, I'm Chinese, but I have a sushi place. You know why? Because I'm Asian. He said, the difference is with you guys, you're all divided. One person is Black, another person is African American, one person is Jamaican, one person is Haitian. He said, with us, even though we know we're Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Thailand, we know these things, but guess what? We're all Asians. Smart. We got to get better, people. We got to get paid better. That's where I'm at right now. That's where we're stopping at. This is going to be a juicy book. It's called It Takes a Village to Raise a Bar. It's a free download. I'm going to share the link tomorrow. I'm going to put the link in the description. I forgot to do it. I'm going to share the link. Get the book and open up your ears, open up your mind, and most importantly, open up your heart. Because it's not about what we disagree with. It's what we agree with that's going to pull us up together collectively. I love you guys. Peace and blessings. And I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:15 with the Virtual Book Club. Don't forget to share the video. Be blessed.